How utterly preposterous. After 3 years in a long-distance relationship, my fiancé, Ethan Feng, had secretly become a husband and father. Our ending came when he brought home his legitimate wife, followed by a citywide flood of vicious gossip about me. When I went to confront him and demand an explanation, my younger half-brother, Caleb Tao, had already gotten there first. He used a baseball bat and broke 2 of Ethan Feng's ribs. Just like that. Mr. Tao passed away during the celebratory dinner my company held for me. He fell down the stairs while delivering water, a simple fatal accident. Young Yang from the administrative department mentioned that a delivery worker earned 3 yuan for a single bucket of water. He lost his life for who knows which 3 yuan. How truly pathetic. After the celebration, I returned to the old family house. It had truly grown old. The rusted iron gate and the wildly overgrown weeds in the yard had long since swallowed the warmth and life that once existed there. Bathed in the rare, pure moonlight of the countryside, I slowly walked inside. The loquat tree in the corner was still there. Mr. Tao had planted it with his own hands when I was born. Coincidentally, the year I turned 10, this loquat tree suddenly blossomed and bore fruit. Everyone said it was a good omen. But that year our family splintered. Mr. Tao had Caleb, and he decided he didn't want my mother and me anymore. On the day Mr. Tao moved out, I was napping at school and had a dream. In the dream I was a child 3 or 4 years old playing with mud under the loquat tree. Mr. Tao was going on a long trip, and my mother called me over to say goodbye. Mr. Tao held out his arms to hug me, but I hid behind my mother, clutching her apron. Mr. Tao smiled with a helpless look. Little Alara doesn't like Daddy. If Daddy leaves, he won't come back. I woke up with a start from the dream. I didn't know when it had started, but outside the window, a torrential rain was pouring down. A flash of thunder ripped through the sky, waking up many classmates who cried out in fright. Perhaps I was startled too. Suddenly I couldn't hear anything except the booming sound, whether it was thunder or my own heartbeat. A suffocating feeling of being abandoned by the world welled up in my throat, and I couldn't even cry. Later, my mother often said that while I was still in her womb, Mr. Tao talked about wanting a son all the time. Now that he truly had a son, it would be strange if he still wanted us, a mother and daughter. She also said that actually, even if I was a daughter, Mr. Tao initially liked me quite a bit. It was all my fault for not being close to him, hurting his feelings, and that's why he left. There was even one time late at night, she left me at the doorstep of Mr. Tao's new house. At that time, Caleb had just been born. Heard the cries coming from inside the door, and Mr. Tao gentle, patient, soothing. Unable to help myself, I also burst into tears. The next day my mother came to pick me up. Mr. Tao had a fierce argument with her, calling her crazy. In truth, at that time my mother was indeed already ill, but none of us realized it. After that, I never went to Mr. Tao's new house again. Even when he was making up a bed for me, he had to leave halfway to change Caleb's diaper. My mother said that when I was little he barely ever held me. I didn't feel particularly sad about this. I was just afraid of the expression my mother wore when she said these things. It was unnaturally strange, and she even tilted her head and smiled at me, raising an eyebrow. She came back with a large supply of sleeping pills. The sound insulation in the old house's rooms wasn't great. Every night, lying in my small bed, I could hear her from the next room, separated by just a wall, tossing, sighing, sobbing, opening the pill bottle and taking the sleeping pills. I would hide under the covers, biting the corner tightly, not daring to make a sound, afraid of disturbing her sleep. But even so, the light in her eyes was slowly, bit by bit, covered by the dark circles beneath them. More than once she complained to me, "Why is the night so long?" Last year her physical and mental states finally collapsed to their limit. She swallowed an entire bottle of sleeping pills. I don't know how long she had been secretly saving them, only that by the time I rushed to the emergency room, the resuscitation had already ended. She opened her weak eyes, looking at me blankly, and then I saw her tears streaming endlessly from the corners of her eyes. She couldn't be saved. Years of accumulated sleeping pills had caused severe kidney damage, which had now worsened into uremia. Even if I had the means to provide her with the best treatment now, it was already too late. She didn't have many days left, and she didn't want to live anymore. She was covered in tubes, often looking at me with a mournful expression. Every night I would sit by her bed, tell her stories and coax her to sleep. Sometimes she could sleep for 10 minutes, sometimes she would be awake all night. After ensuring she was asleep and wouldn't pull out the tubes to attempt suicide again, I liked to leave the room and sit alone in the emergency stairwell. There were no lights there, but through the window I could see the dazzling lights of the entire city. Then I would crouch in the corner, crying silently until I trembled. After my mother was gone, I went to many places, spending almost all my savings. Those were funds I had specifically saved for my mother's medical expenses since I started working. I once took a train for over 10 hours to arrive in Shanghai, with its bright neon lights. I visited the Bund, getting jostled and pushed around by the dense crowds. Then, carrying a large backpack, I went to Beijing, wandering through the crisscrossing hutongs all day, never worrying about getting lost. I remember in Vietnam, I shuffled around in flip-flops wearing a floral shirt, navigating streets packed with motorcycles just to buy a durian. In Japan, to see the sunrise over the sea I had longed for, I lay on the deck of a cruise ship, staying awake all night. I walked on the fallen leaves by the Seine, climbed to the top of the Eiffel Tower. I recited the history of every stone sculpture on the Charles Bridge, and wandered around the century-old shops in Brussels' Grand Place again and again. Later, I even lived a simple, monotonous life in the primary forests of Borneo for quite some time. However, in the end I decided to return to the starting point. Although no one was waiting for me there anymore, it was where my home had been. I had always known Mr. Tao and I still lived in the same city, but he never came back to see me, and I never went to find him. We simply never met again. Aunt Carol was weeping heartbrokenly. She held my hand, urging me to cry as well to see Mr. Tao off. I took off my sunglasses, looked at Mr. Tao's memorial photo, and felt no trace of tears. Mr. Tao's photo was well chosen. You could faintly see hints of his youthful spirit. He was confined within that square frame, seemingly smiling silently at me. I had almost forgotten what he looked like, but that smile felt strangely familiar. Human memory is truly peculiar. Caleb Tao, the baby who cried incoherently in his cradle back then, had grown into a tall young man. He knelt by the side, burning paper money for Mr. Tao, remaining silent for a long time. Aunt Carol told him to call me sister. He looked up at me indifferently, made no sound. Aunt Carol, anxious, pushed him. "Child, why are you getting less sensible as you get older? Your sister has been here for half the day, she must be hungry. Go quickly and make your sister something to eat." He still didn't say anything, but he put down the paper money and obediently went into the kitchen. Soon after, I heard the sound of the gas stove being turned on. "Elara, Auntie knows I shouldn't ask this, but I truly have no other way. Now that your dad is gone, this child, Caleb. If your uncle hadn't gotten that terrible illness that drained all our savings, I wouldn't want to bother you. After all, your dad, he really wronged you and your mother. But he's gone now, so don't blame him too much, okay? Blame that vixen Serafina. When your dad had that work injury and couldn't work, she immediately ran off with someone else, taking all the money at home. Caleb wasn't even 3 years old then. That wicked woman was too cruel. I heard you're doing very well now, working at a big company. Look, Caleb is your own brother after all." "Oh right, Caleb is in his second year of high school this year. His grades are excellent at the best high school in the city. Your dad said he always ranked in the top 3 of his grade in every exam. It would be such a waste not to continue his education. Can you help fund him for a few years? Top 3 in the city's best high school. He was far more outstanding than I had been back then. No wonder Mr. Tao worked himself to death to support him." Just as she was speaking, Caleb came out carrying a large ceramic bowl. He placed the bowl in front of me and then turned back to the kitchen to get a bottle of vinegar for me. I lowered my head and looked. It was a simple bowl of instant noodles, topped with a fried egg that wasn't perfectly cooked. It smelled quite good, though. "You must be 16 this year, right? I'll only support you for 2 years. After you turn 18, please figure out how to be responsible for your own life." He stared at me dumbfounded, wearing black-rimmed glasses, his mouth slightly open. He looked a little slow. Looking closer, there was indeed a resemblance to Mr. Tao in his features. Seeing me relent, Aunt Carol quickly tugged at his arm. "Truly a bookworm, aren't you? What are you standing there for, looking so stupid? Hurry up and thank your sister." "No need." I stood up, looking at Mr. Tao one last time. His surname is Tao, mine is Lin. Just consider it funding a poor, outstanding student. I only saw Caleb Tao twice before he took his college entrance exam. One time was when Aunt Carol returned to the countryside and picked a basket of free-range eggs for Caleb to deliver to me. He arrived at noon just as Ethan and I were having lunch. Ethan was the mentor who brought me into this industry, and also my fiancé of 3 years. He was the one who taught me hand in hand how to analyze data and negotiate deals. He was also the one who helped me out of difficult situations with clients, blocked drinks for me, and accompanied me in searching for doctors and medicine for my mother's illness. Because workplace romances weren't allowed, he decisively changed jobs for me, even comforting me afterwards. It's actually quite good. I can move to a better platform. That way, I can give you a better future. Ethan's appearance was like warm sunlight breaking through the cracks, illuminating my gloomy, suppressed life. He filled the missing part of my life with tenderness and favoritism. Ethan opened the door for Caleb. Seeing him covered in sweat, he politely invited him in to sit for a while. Caleb glanced at me, seated at the dining table, and stuffed the basket of eggs into Ethan's arms, shaking his head. "No thanks, I've already eaten." "Thank you, Mr. Feng. I have class this afternoon, I'll head off now." "Thank you, Mr. Feng. Shouldn't you be calling me brother-in-law?" Ethan smiled, putting the eggs away in the fridge, commenting with interest, "My little brother-in-law is quite interesting." I shot him a cold look. "What do you mean your little brother-in-law? He doesn't even call me sister. And he's calling you brother-in-law." The other time was at Uncle George's funeral. I hadn't planned on attending, but then I remembered how Aunt Carol had often visited us after Mr. Tao left my mother and me. And when my mother passed away, Aunt Carol had helped with many things. Uncle George's funeral was held in the countryside. Summer in the countryside means lots of mosquitoes, and I'm the type who attracts them easily. In no time, my calves were covered in bites, and applying mosquito repellent didn't help much. Seeing this, Aunt Carol told me to stay inside and gave me a plate of mosquito coils and a lighter. As I was holding the lighter, wondering how to light it, Caleb came in. He took the mosquito coil and lighter from my hand, pressed his thumb gently, and lit the coil with the rising flame. A slight smile touched the corner of his mouth. "Dad told me that when you were little, you were naughty and played with fire by the stove, almost setting yourself on fire. After that, you didn't even dare to play with fireworks." I let out a cold laugh. He had the nerve to say that? When I was 6, while my mother was in the vegetable garden picking spring onions, I ran to the stove and played with fire. Accidentally, I pulled a fiercely burning piece of firewood out of the stove. It fell to the ground. The area around the old stove was covered with dried rice straw, which ignites instantly, and the flames leaped up in a flash. I was trapped inside, crying hysterically in fear. Mr. Tao was closest to me at the time, and he was the first to rush towards me, but he stopped in front of the flames. Fortunately, the next second my mother returned. Seeing the situation, she rushed in like a whirlwind, scooped me up and ran out. The entire action was seamless, without a second of hesitation. "Then did your dad not tell you?" "He was right there. Yet he just watched his own daughter about to be burned alive and didn't try to save her." He froze for 2 seconds, a hint of surprise flashing in his eyes, but still chose to defend Mr. Tao in a low voice. "Dad is also afraid of fire. He doesn't even smoke, he just dares not light a fire." "Who isn't afraid of fire?" I met his gaze, which was a little nervous and guilty, saying with a half smile, "Haven't you heard the saying? Parental love is instinctual." He didn't save me because I wasn't that important in his heart. He clearly became anxious. "That's not it. Fear is also instinctual. You're also afraid of fire. You should know how people who are afraid of fire feel facing it. Love conquers all." I interrupted coldly, my face full of mockery. "If the person trapped in the fire that day had been you, do you think he would have hesitated?" Out of the corner of my eye, I saw his hand clench his clothes. After a long pause, he said somewhat defiantly, "Anyway, I don't believe Dad would stand by and watch someone die. I think he loved you too." I rudely interrupted him again. "Nonsense. Loved me and abandoned me? Loved me and didn't even give half the child support? Loved me and didn't ask about me for so many years. Caleb Tao, I'm warning you, you'd better not be like your dad, saying all the right things but doing utterly despicable deeds." Suddenly, an inexplicable anger surged within me. I didn't know if it was because of Mr. Tao or because of Caleb's clumsily ridiculous lies. That was the first time I saw Caleb get angry. He suddenly yanked open his collar, pointing to a palm-sized scar on his chest, his body and voice trembling slightly. "This scar is from when I was 4 years. Olden accidentally knocked over a thermos, scalding myself. Dad was right next to me then. Didn't he want to save me? No, he couldn't do it. His remaining half hand couldn't steady the wobbly thermos. He paused, then continued. No matter what, he was still your dad and he's dead now. You're still cursing him like this, Alara Lin, you've gone too far. I blinked my sore eyes, still feeling uncomfortable. I'll say it again, my surname is Lin, my name is Alara Lin. From then on, my interactions with Caleb were limited to him sending me a thank you text message after receiving living expenses. Sometimes I would be too busy and forget the date and he wouldn't rush me. I had assumed that once I supported him until he was 18, we would become like names at the bottom of each other's contact lists, slowly sinking to the bottom with the passage of time, eventually being overwritten by the system with no further need for contact. Until that time when I faced malicious competition from a colleague. That client account was crucial to my promotion, and I had put in so much effort for it, I didn't want to give up easily. So, even though my stomach had been bothering me for several days, I endured the discomfort and drank glass after glass. When Caleb came in, carrying a fruit platter, the hand that had been resting on my shoulder, the one with ill intentions, was slowly sliding towards my waist. Instinctively, I glanced at Caleb. He was also staring at me, frozen. The constantly shifting mood lighting in the private room illuminated. His young face turning it red one moment, white the next. There were many things in his eyes too, but they were clear and bright. Unlike mine. Aunt Carol said I had made something of myself. Perhaps. But for a woman with no support, no background, no connections, just saying the words made something of myself required so much effort. Late into the night, Caleb waited for me, staggering at the end of the corridor outside the room. My legs were so weak I couldn't stand straight. He reached out and supported me. Why are you here? Why are you here? We said it almost in unison. He paused, then asked, why didn't you dodge just now? The strong smell of alcohol hit me in waves, causing the numbness and struggle within me to collide repeatedly, transforming into indignant grievance. How could I dodge? If I did, the drinks tonight would be for nothing. All the hard work of me and my team for the past half year would be wasted. And I wouldn't get promoted or a raise. He questioned me loudly, full of disdain. Is getting promoted and a raise that important to you? I chuckled. Caleb Tao, Mr. Tao protected you very well. It's really enviable. Have you ever been unable to pay tuition on time, and had your teacher question you in front of the whole class about your family being unable to afford even that little money? Have you ever had a relative lying in a hospital bed, and you could only choose to give them cheap medicine with significant side effects? If I had as much money back then as I do now, those classmates wouldn't chase me after school every day calling me a debt dodger. My mother wouldn't have suffered for so many years, and she wouldn't have gotten sick to the point of being beyond saving. Caleb Tao, do you think it's important or not? I became more and more agitated as I spoke. These hurts and regrets had been buried in my heart for years. I had carefully kept them hidden, never intending to show them to anyone, but unexpectedly, I had laid them out so easily before a child. Suddenly everything went black. My last memory was of Caleb's panicked face. Only at the hospital did I realize I wasn't drunk. I was pregnant. But this child came too suddenly. Ethan and I weren't married yet, and couldn't get married immediately. I was on the verge of a promotion. Giving up now would be too much of a waste. Ethan had just been transferred to headquarters for a rotation, and he wouldn't be in the country for most of the next 3 to 5 years. I wasn't sure if I could handle everything alone. Even if I could, I didn't want my child to grow up like me, in an environment where the father was absent. As for asking Ethan to quit his job, I didn't have the confidence to voice it. As someone in the same field, I understood how much he had sacrificed to reach his current position. I touched my still flat abdomen, tilted my head, and forced a bitter smile at Ethan. I can only apologize to him. Ethan pulled me into his arms, apologizing over and over again. I knew the baby couldn't feel our apologies yet, but my heart ached and tears streamed down my face. At dawn, we went together to complete the procedures. We saw Caleb still sitting on the bench in the hospital corridor. He hadn't left. Seeing me, he stood up, looking at me uneasily, mumbling, "Are you okay?" I didn't have the heart to pay attention to him. I pulled Ethan along, but after only a few steps, I heard the familiar voice of the young man behind me. "I'm sorry, sis." My steps paused, but I didn't turn back. 3 days after saying goodbye to the baby, Ethan had to leave again. He stopped me at the door, not letting me see him off. A warm kiss landed on my forehead. Be good, it's windy outside, and you're recovering from a minor procedure. Don't catch a cold. I'll be back next month. I stood on the balcony watching his receding figure, my heart feeling increasingly empty. In fact, I wished he could have stayed and kept me company. Just like that day at the hospital, more than an apology, I wished he had said, "Let's have the baby." As my thoughts drifted, Caleb unexpectedly knocked on my door. He was pushing a half-worn large suitcase, standing at the doorway, reciting a rehearsed speech to me very seriously. My floor got ruined by water, I can't live there for a while. Aunt Carol went to the countryside to be a nanny. I'm not working at the KTV anymore. Now I work at the library during the day, and tutor a child in the evening. The library and the child's home are both very close to your place. Can you take me in for a while? Don't worry, I promise I won't bother you and I won't stay for free. I'll do all the chores, I can cook for you, run errands, I can do anything you want. He rattled off a whole bunch of things, his speech getting faster and faster. His fingers gripped the suitcase handle tightly, his cheeks flushed. He didn't dare to look at me the entire time. You've blocked all my reasons for refusing you. What else can I say? I gave him an annoyed side-eye, mocking him. What kind of food will you make me? Instant noodles. No, I can make basic home-cooked meals. Seeing me step aside to let him in, he quickly moved the suitcase inside, growing bolder, his tone becoming livelier. I made you instant noodles that day because Dad said you liked them. He said you were picky even when you were little, that instant noodles should come with 2 eggs, 1 fried and 1 cracked and mixed with the broth, and finally you have to add quite a bit of vinegar. Even though he couldn't cook, instant noodles. He seemed to realize something and didn't continue. He instinctively glanced at me. I pointed to the second bedroom. You sleep in that one. I remembered. One time my mother went to my grandma's house and couldn't make it back that night. Mr. Tao cooked me a bowl of instant noodles just like that. He said that cooking it this way made it the most fragrant. The noodles and the broth were both fragrant. After that, every time I ate instant noodles, I had to eat them this way. Living conditions in the 1990s were far from what they are now. My mother would scold me for being wasteful and Mr. Tao would just chuckle beside her. Why are you scolding the child for food? It shows my daughter has taste. Perhaps my mother was right. Even if I was a daughter, Mr. Tao might have liked me quite a bit originally. Caleb stayed with me for about a month. I'm an early riser, but Caleb was even earlier. Every morning, I would wake up to see a steaming hot breakfast on the table. When I didn't work overtime in the evening, I usually came back earlier than Caleb, and there was always warm food in the pot. He truly never bothered me. He never made noise when he came back late. Often I would come out to get water and only realize he was back when I saw the light on in his room. And no matter how late it was, he would sit on the sofa and wait for me to get off work. One night, there was a heavy downpour, and Caleb didn't come back very late. Worried, I called him and found out he had actually run to my company to bring me an umbrella. I was so angry I called him crazy. I have a car, why would I need you to bring me an umbrella? He sat in the passenger seat, chuckling sheepishly. Forgot. Another time we went grocery shopping together at the supermarket. 2 girls who weren't very observant whispered to each other. That woman is much older than the Gaia. That woman looks quite rich at first glance. I couldn't take it anymore and turned around to retort angrily. Can't you 2 tell we're brother and sister? Then I saw Caleb's face turn red as he stifled a laugh. Actually, they weren't wrong. You are much older than me, and you are quite rich. Get lost. That was the only word I gave him. Sometimes I would deliberately ask him if his water-damaged floor had been renovated yet. He would pull a long face and reply miserably that he didn't have money for the renovation. But when I repeatedly suggested that he didn't need to work so many jobs, and that I could sponsor his university tuition and living expenses appropriately, he adopted a man must be self-reliant attitude. I've turned 18. I won't accept charity anymore. I worried that he wouldn't be able to scrape together the tuition, and thought about secretly giving Aunt Carol some money. Aunt Carol smiled and told me, "It's enough. That boy is clever." While staying with you, he rented out his own house. I was so angry that during a video call with Ethan, I righteously ranted about Caleb for half an hour. Ethan smiled at me through the camera as gentle as ever. I actually think it's a good thing Caleb is staying with you. Look at you, there are clearly more smiles on your face than before. Having him keep you company reassures me quite a bit. I pouted. Who wants him to keep me company? I'm perfectly comfortable by myself. Hearing my disingenuous words, the fondness on Ethan's face was undeniable. Is that so? Then you don't want me to come back and keep you company next month either. How utterly preposterous. A month later, I didn't welcome back Ethan, my fiancé of 3 years. Instead, I got Ethan Feng, who was already a husband and father, along with his legitimate wife, and a city full of vicious gossip. I couldn't even begin to process this sudden mockery before I was hit by malicious speculation and schadenfreude from all directions. Ethan Feng, meanwhile, vanished without a trace, allowing all the mud to be thrown at me without any explanation. I was utterly unable to defend myself. Finally, I couldn't stand it anymore. I bought a plane ticket and sent myself to the city where we first met. I walked through every street and alley we had once visited, carrying the memories of just the two of us. Even when eating noodles in a small restaurant, I placed a photo of us together beside me. On the day my menstrual cramps were at their worst, I sat by the coast of Galangiu, feeling the sea breeze, and thought all night long, why did he lie to me? Had I done something wrong too? So all his hard work, diligence, and dedication over the years, all his scheming and scurrying, his efforts to transfer abroad for a rotation, it wasn't to give me a better future when he returned, but simply because his wife and child were already abroad. What about me then? What about me? Did the child I sacrificed for our careers and our future together only deserve to turn into an invisible pool of blood? Why? Without realizing it, the crimson sun emerged from the sea, hanging among the clouds, radiating brilliant light. The layers of cloud sea were stained orange-red and vibrant, like a boiling mass of flames. I suddenly stood up. I couldn't just run away like this. In this ridiculous farce, I wasn't the villain. Why should I be subjected to gossip and condemnation? The person who should apologize, take responsibility, and face retribution was the scumbag Ethan Feng, who attempted to play 2 women like puppets in his hands. Not me. I bought the earliest flight back to demand justice. Unexpectedly, Caleb Tao had already gotten there first. He used a baseball bat and broke 2 of Ethan Feng's ribs. When I rushed to the police station, he was sitting in a corner, his neck stiff, the youthful impetuousness evident. He looked fearless, like a hero ready to sacrifice himself at any moment. I heard the police patiently yet sternly lecturing him that he shouldn't have resorted to violence, asking him if he knew he was wrong. He was still stubborn, arrogantly stating, I wasn't wrong. He deserved it. If I see him again, I'll hit him again. I couldn't hold back anymore. I rushed over in a few steps and gave him a hard push. Say that again. Caleb Tao, you're capable now, aren't you? If you're so capable, get out of here right now. Do you know you're supposed to report to university next week? You've studied for so many years, and Mr. Tao worked himself to death to support you until his last breath. Was it so you could end up in prison? Whether he deserved to be hit or not, that's between me and him. What does it have to do with you? Do you need to interfere? I was so angry I wanted to slap him, but a police officer beside me held me back. He stared at me blankly at first, then like a small animal dropping all its defenses, a flicker of helplessness crossed his face. Finally, he hung his head, his eyes downcast, and mumbled a few words in a low voice. Anyway, Dad's not here anymore. I have to protect you. Covering my face, I crouched on the ground, crying uncontrollably. Caleb Tao, I warned you. Don't be like your dad, always doing despicable things. For so many years, I preferred to believe that those bratty kids who chased me calling me debt dodger suddenly stopped one day because their innate good conscience called them to do so, not because they were threatened by some rumored gangster boss. I never knew any gangster boss. I only had a father who didn't want me. Mr. Tao did indeed leave me back then. Between me and Caleb, he chose Caleb. That was because he genuinely couldn't rest assured leaving the crying infant Caleb to a woman who treated life like a game. He had to pay for his moment of foolishness. He selfishly did want a son, but the joy and happiness that I, his firstborn, brought him as a first-time father were also hard for him to let go of. When my mother left me at the door of his new house late at night, he tried to find my mother to change my custody rights, but my mother chased him away. Later, when my mother realized she was ill and couldn't control hitting and scolding me, she more than once grabbed my arm and pushed me out the door, telling me to go find Mr. Tao. But by then Mr. Tao, after an accidental work injury, had a limp and had lost half a hand. He could barely take care of himself. Dragging his broken body, it was hard for him to even support just Caleb. When my mother was dying, she held my hand. Tears no longer flowed from her eyes. She apologized to me. Adults make mistakes too. Forgive Mom and forgive your father. Go find him. Mom can't rest assured leaving you alone. After my mother passed away, I spent more than half a year traveling, stopping and starting, searching and seeking. The scenery along the way was desolate yet romantic. After traveling thousands of miles, I found that the timidity and cowardice in my heart, the pride and defiance, all seemed small and calm. Between the vast sky and earth, I finally slowly, bit by bit, reconciled with all the joys and sorrows, partings and reunions. I thought I should go back. Perhaps returning to the very beginning, I might still have a home. After settling down, I found another job. I just didn't expect to see Mr. Tao at the company again. Mr. Tao's handcart loaded with bottled water would punctually rattle down our company corridor every week. He had become thin, his back no longer broad and straight, but hunched like an old man. He was old. Carrying the heavy bottled water was clearly a struggle. His damaged left hand made him tremble every time he changed a bottle. I brushed past him countless times, close enough to smell the wind and frost on him, and the scent that was unique to my memory of him. But not once did he stop for me, not once did he turn back for me. Not once. On both sides of the corridor were many announcements of the successes I had achieved through my hard work. My photo was always placed at the highest and most prominent spot. I don't believe he didn't see them. I thought he still didn't want me. Using the 3 years of misplaced affection and our abrupt ending as leverage, I obtained a letter of understanding from Ethan Feng regarding the assault charges against Caleb. On the way back, I drove with a cold face. Caleb, sitting in the passenger seat beside me, was like a child who had made a mistake, waiting for punishment. He kept his head down, carefully apologizing to me. "I'm sorry I caused you trouble. If Dad knew, he would blame me too." Seeing me stay silent, he paused, took a long breath as if finally mustering courage. "There's one more thing I need to apologize for. Actually, the money Dad left me was enough for me to go to school." I slammed on the brakes so hard we almost had a rear-end collision. It scared him, his face turning white. He explained frantically, "I'm sorry I didn't lie to you for your money. I just wanted a sister." Later, Caleb would brazenly move into my place every summer and winter holiday. His reason was that Mr. Tao's biggest regret in life was not spending enough time with me, and he wanted to fulfill his late father's wish. Even later, I decided to quit and change jobs. Caleb pounded his chest, making a thudding sound. "Don't hesitate. Do the work you like. It doesn't matter if the salary is a bit lower. I'm graduating soon. I can support you until you get married." Even later, I walked down the aisle on his arm. When he handed my hand to my kind and gentle husband, both big men cried uglier than the other, utterly embarrassing me. Oh right, not long ago we had New Year's Eve dinner together. He and my husband got drunk, their eyes barely able to open. But he didn't forget to threaten my husband. "I'm not kidding you. If you dare bully my sister, I'll truly fight you to the death. Don't believe me? Go ask at the police station. They definitely still remember me." My tears came again. Silly boy. End.